welcome to Kumbaya Corner.
Hello, people. This episode is going to be a good one because I am talking about something I am very, very, very passionate about. I speak about this from the bottom of my heart, like I do every other thing, but this is just one of those things that I will not disrespect or tolerate any disrespect while I talk about. Not that you guys were disrespecting me before, but it's just like, there's been, I want to say controversy for lack of a better word, but like, yeah, there's been a lot of controversy in quotes around this topic. And I'm just going to give my own 2 cents, but my 2 cents are worth more than 2 cents. So take this how you want to, but I am going to be talking about this is a book review episode BTW, and I'm going to be talking about, almost the greatest author ever, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I'm going to be talking about Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's Dream Count. This is her latest novel, and I'm going to get into it. But for people that are not familiar with Chimamanda and her work, let me be the one to tell you, in my books, I know there are other literary giants, but she is the best thing that has come out of Nigerian literature for me, especially because when I read one of her books, it was a time when I was in secondary school. I was going to do like a talk on the radio, like a discussion with me and another one of my classmates about her book. And that was what made me actually read the book. So I read that book properly. And then my teacher made sure, like, everything was on point when I was even reading, like, in the process of studying the book. And that was kind of my introduction to Chimamanda. And the first book I read of hers was Half of a Yellow Sun. It's basically a historical fiction surrounding the Biafra civil war in Nigeria, true events, but she threw in some stories, like stories surrounding the events, which is why it's a historical fiction. But yeah, but that's not the book I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to talk about Dream Counts, her latest book, the book she just released, I think, earlier this year. And I just want to say, social media was not happy with Chimamanda for this book. People were like, oh, they hate it, it's boring, is this, is that, and all sorts. And I'm just like, the book is not even boring. I'm going to read my review and then we're going to get into it because yeah. So I posted my review on on Medium, and it's called Before You Read Dream Counts. So the first thing I said was drop your expectations, there is no plot, and 3, take your time. These were my key points. I recently read Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's Dream Counts, and I think I'm finally ready to share my thoughts. Also, if you notice, when I talk about her, I like to say her full name because that is the respect I have for her. I'm going to talk about briefly about her other books that I have read. I haven't read like the major ones like Americana and Purple Hibiscus. Shame on me, yes. Booze, Tomato, Tomato. That's actually so bad that I haven't read them, but it's on my list. Don't worry. But I've read The Thing Around Your Neck, which is it's been a while, but I think it's a collection of short stories, and her feminist manifesto. It's really short, but you get the message, and I just think everybody should read that book. In fact, it should be on your, TBR. If you have one, you should repeat it. You know how you have movies that you rewatch? This should be a book that you reread every like 2 years or something just to refresh your brain. If you're not one for reading books, listen to her talks. She should be included in your personal study time. That's just my unpopular opinion, but yeah, back to my review. The book takes us back to the dreaded COVID-19 lockdown era and zooms in on what I describe as the lore of 4 women. Their connection is through one central character, Chiamaka, who isn't quite the main character in a traditional sense. There's no clear storyline, no climax, no resolution, but she's the anchor and the other characters orbit around her. Other characters are Zikora, her best friend, Omelugo, her cousin and her confidant, and Kaditu, her help. Dream Counts reads like a collection of personal journal entries from a moment in time. Each woman's story is not shared as a full biography, but as a snapshot, unfiltered, incomplete, and emotionally honest. You don't get the full picture, but you get enough to understand, enough to empathize, and that's what kept me turning pages. This is a departure from Chimamanda's previous works, more fragmented, more intimate. I'd even say it's a piece that insists upon itself, daring you to engage with it on its terms. I'm going to pause here and I'm going to just briefly digest this. This is the problem that people had with this book, actually, because it's not like, her other books, because it's like a total, let me say, a total betrayal from what she usually does, from what we know her to do. People were so mad about it and they're like, I wouldn't recommend you read the book is boring. Obviously, everybody is entitled to their own opinion. But this also brings me back to a point where it's like sometimes as fans of like artists and authors and just creatives in general, it's like we don't want to see them grow. We just hate it when they dare to try something different. But I think she said this as well, that she's just at a point in her career, just or in life even, where it's like she can just do anything and it's okay. Like, is she still expressing herself? She's not begging anybody to read this book, if we're being honest. So she's not begging anybody to read this book. She's not begging for press. She's not begging for anything. She has, quote unquote, made it in her career and she's confident in her position and in her work. So I don't see why, at this point in her career, she should continue to bend and twist to the demands of publishing houses or fans. And that's just by the way. And then another point that I want to make around this is like, an artist for something, like you just hate to see them grow from that thing. Like, God forbid the artist I'm listening to starts making music different from what they started doing when I started listening to them. Or God forbid this author I like that normally does crime thrillers starts doing romance books and everybody's just like, oh, no, it was bad, I hate it, she should stick. I'm just like, guys, I promise you they have a life outside what you like from them. And that's just what I'm going to say on that. But that's why I said at the beginning, drop your expectations. Like everything you know about Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, pardon me, and her previous books and what she does, please just drop it if you know you want to read and enjoy this book, and just any book in general or any piece, any form of art. Just leave your expectations somewhere and just go in and let the art speak to you. Go in with like, this is my expectation when I see this thing. This is what I want it to say. Meet with it and let it speak to you, if I'm making sense. But back to my review. Here's how I experienced each character. Chiamaka moves in loops, navigating unsatisfying romantic entanglements with men of all sorts, none of which take roots. In the end, she seems to remain single, but it's her passion for travel writing that anchors her, that keeps her going. Kadiatu is in the thick of becoming. So Kadiatu is the help, Chiamaka's help. Her story is one of loss and survival. She loses her sister, the only real love she's known. Her lover ends up in prison in the US. She survives gang rape and FGM in her country. She migrates only to be re-traumatized by a high-profile figure. Her story is heavy but not unfamiliar. It's a reflection of what many women endure, some silently, some loudly, some never fully at all. So Kadiatu's story is actually based on a real story, and we all know Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie for one thing. Like, she is not going to ignore the political and economic state of the world. She is going to comment on it in her own little way. And I love that she did that, because Kadiatu's story was actually based on the story of someone IRL that migrated, I think, to the US. I'm trying to remember the like nitty-gritty of the story because I did read this book like months ago. So it's based on the story of this woman who was basically raped. She was a hotel cleaner, and while she was doing her work, cleaning one of the rooms in a hotel, I think one of the guests was a high-profile figure in the country at the time, and he raped her, and then he was also naked in front of her, and then it was a whole thing. And then it's obviously no surprise to anyone that unfortunately she was not believed. I mean, she was an immigrant in the US. They just took it as she would say anything. But it was based on a real story, which I don't have full information about. But it's like I also don't want to give you spoilers if you do decide to read the book. Also, this my review doesn't have any spoilers. It just a general overview of the book. Zikora suffers a miscarriage and is abandoned by her lover, but in that devastation, a new door cracks open. She begins to reconcile with her mother, though their relationship remains far from perfect. Omalego operates in male-dominated spaces. This is my favorite character as well. Quietly outwitting a corrupt system while being tangled in its mess. Her Robin Hood moments, genius. She became my favorite character almost instantly. You never quite know what she's going to say next. It's sharp, witty, hilarious, and wildly unpredictable. One line that she said that actually stuck with me was she basically said, if you're both in love, it shouldn't matter who proposes. Spoken casually in response to Chiamaka's complaint that her boyfriend hadn't proposed yet. Very classic of Omalego. I've tried to avoid major spoilers here, but honestly, Dream Counts isn't a story you spoil. It's not driven by plot twists. It's rooted in presence. You're simply invited to sit in the room with these four women in that strange suspended time of lockdown and watch them do life. It's slow, reflective, and painfully real. And like many of Chimamanda's works, this one doesn't shy away from political, social, and economic realities. These women's experiences are not unusual, they aren't new. They felt familiar and they were familiar. That's why I kept reading, because somewhere between the pain and the laughter, I saw bits of myself. I enjoyed Dream Count, and more than that, I felt it. This is basically my review on the book. These are my thoughts on the book. I haven't gone into the plot because there actually isn't like a plot. It's just imagine you're being invited into a room to sit with four women and just, hear about their lives. No, not even their lives. They're just like, how was your day? And then they're telling you about their lore. That's what this book felt like to me. And then I really, really enjoyed it because, in as much as I love a good plot, I love a good story, I love a good plot twist, I also love the stillness of just being in the stillness of observing someone else's life or hearing about someone else's life. No questions, no contributions. We're just sat there over a cup of Zobo. You guys know I love my Zobo. Over a cup of Zobo, and then we're just having a conversation about, this is me, this is how I got here. And that's just what this story felt like to me. So if you are considering reading this specific book, drop your expectations. There's no plus. And honestly, take your time. If you do feel like it's getting boring for you, absolutely for sure, take a break. But I wouldn't write it off as a bad book or her worst work. I wouldn't say, oh, this is bad. It is very different from Purple Hibiscus, Half of a Yellow Sun, Americana, Feminist Manifesto, the thing around your neck. Yes, but it doesn't make it bad because, first of all, the books were never even in competition with each other. And I listened to a couple of interviews she did, like for the book press, and she did know she's fully aware that this is very different from what she normally does, but she felt happy doing it. Like, it's like, yeah, this is my work. Like, at the end of the day, nobody's going to police her and put a chain around her neck and ask her, "Oh, you have to replicate what you did in Half of a Yellow Sun." And oh, she's actually bigger than that. So my advice and recommendation is give this book a read, give this book a chance, see life through Chiamaka's eyes. She's a travel writer and someone that has not had very good experiences in dating, which I found very interesting. Read Kadiatu's story. She's someone that has escaped, just horrible treatment where she's from. She has lost family members. She has lost her innocence, but then she kept fighting. She was still able to send her child to school, working as Chiamaka's help. Even after the hotel thing happened, she didn't stop fighting because, granted, she was raped in the country that she thought was her next big thing. But where she was coming from, she was circumcised as a woman, and that's not even better. None of the situations are better, but just take a look into her eyes. Honestly, read Omolego's story. I think she does a catalog that is like, she's like a sex therapist or something. I'm not sure, but I found her story the most interesting. And also, you really, really don't have to read it from like the beginning. If you feel like you want to do something different, you can read from Omolego's story. you like just because each chapter is like another person's story. Like if you flip through the book, you see each of their names start their own chapter. So feel free to start from any of the characters. Go to Zikora, who I think she lost her baby, and then in the process of losing her baby, and I think her husband slash partner slash boyfriend, I'm not sure what he was called, her relationship with her mother was rekindled. So these are themes that we are faced with every day. Personally, majority of the themes in the book kind of apply to, like, I don't know, similar things I see in my life, and which was kind of what kept me going. Like, I'm gonna see how this goes. Like, so yeah, give the book a chance and let your favorite artist, writer, artist, author, whatever, let them grow. Like, let them be. They are actually not confined to continue to do what you like, So just because you don't like it, that don't make it bad. And because I like it, doesn't also make it good. But like, who is to say what is good and what is bad, really and truly? So yeah, that's honestly it for today's episode. I just thought I'd share my review, and per usual, I will recommend this. So yeah, thank you for listening.